It's 6 o'clock, so let's get going. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Andrew Bennett. I'm a general advisor with the Kootenay and Boundary Farm Advisors. I'll just make this super brief. I'll let Vadim and Santiago introduce themselves. They'll do a better job than me. But suffice it to say that they're both very talented drone pilots, obviously, but data analysts in general with geographic information systems. And just, if GIS or geographic information systems is like just a lot of gobbledygook for you, really what it means is assembling data and mapping it, making it visual, making it useful, having a way to use that data to make better decisions on your farm. So they do a lot of that. And then, of course, all the other uses for drones too. Tonight will be an introduction, and we'll see where it goes. There should be a lot of time at the end for questions. Please just shoot them into the chat as we go, and we'll try and get to them all at the end. Vadim, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting, providing us with a platform to talk our favorite pastime, drones. Drones are cool, and we're here to talk about all the applications that you can possibly think of on the farm. And just a little bit about our background. Andrew already said we're GIS professionals, and the short word is cool maps with lots of information. And we finished Selkirk program here, so we're quite familiar with local challenges that the region can face, and we're very confident that drones will help everyone. And our mission in general is to empower you with drone technology to be more efficient, to be more innovative, and operate your farm safer. Santi, what to you, and I'll share the screen and we'll start our presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Vadim. Hi, everyone. My name is Santiago, and like Vadim said, I'm also a Selkirk grad from the GIS program, but also from the Integrated Environmental Planning program, which is what it was called a couple of years back. And I'm also an articling agronomy technologist. We're also working towards my nutrient management designation. So I'm just trying to bring kind of holistic farm management into the picture. So kind of leading a little bit of the agriculture side of above sensing, but we're also into a whole variety of different industries, whether that's infrastructure, forestry. We've done a lot of work there. So whoever mentioned forestry, we can definitely connect on that. We've done work with LiDAR, RGB, multispectral, look at all of this stuff. But anyways, thank you, Vadim. I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Santi. Drones on the farm, from fields to insights. Once again, thank you, Andrew, for hosting us here tonight. We did our quick introductions on ourselves and what above sensing is, and what we do is drone services and everything that has to do with drones. So we collect data. As Santiago mentioned, we have multispectral, we have thermal, we have LiDAR, we have RGB, we have premium systems that fly longer and produce better results. We process the data and create analytics products with that data. I am a flight reviewer with, I guess, 8 years of drone experience now. And we also offer equipment and software sales, DJI, and more premium products. So the question of the day, should you have a drone on the farm? And I will answer yes right away, just because I love drones. I changed my career to be in this field, and here I am. In fact, this picture is from 8 years ago, and it was my the first picture that I took in Peace Region for money with my DJI Mavic Pro, and look where it got us. So if you're do any of these tasks like crop scouting, you drive out on a quad and you look at your crop, you need to deal with the drainage issue in your field. You need to spray stuff. You need to count your cows or find the lost calf. you need to check on a leak for irrigation system, or just see how much junk you have in the back corner of your farm. And of course, planning. A good map makes a good plan. This is how we translate our profession into agriculture and really every other industry that we work with. We provide the data that helps our customers to plan better and make better decisions, and in the end save money and end up with better results. So let's talk drones. Those were the applications, and I kind of decided to divide the applications in three groups: scouting, mapping, and spraying. And we'll get into detail for each of these groups. And scouting can be livestock tracking, asset management, taking pictures of your farm for insurance purposes. Like you never know when there's a flood, or you lose your crop to some other nature disaster, and then insurance companies need a proof of what you had in a place. So drones are really good that way because you can always have that permanent record. The realm of mapping offers us access to topography on a centimeter level, so micro elevations if you're into horticulture, drainage solutions, again, planning, if you need to move dirt, if you need to do anything on the farm, and of course crop health with multispectral mapping. And last but not least, the spraying drones. They're getting more popularity now. We even have Peter here joining us, and he can vouch those are really, really cool machines. And they apply fertilizer, pesticides, they can spread dry seed, and they can do it fast and pretty well. So let's go to the topic of scouting, and this is the easiest way for you to get into the game of drones. Get a Mini. They're cheap, they're prosumer RGB drones, means it's a flying camera, like a flying selfie stick, if you will. They're really good for good weather. They weigh under 250 grams, which means you don't even need a license to fly those in most conditions, because they're so light and they don't do any damage. They feature live video feed. They're easy to fly, hang in the air for half an hour. It's enough to take pictures like that on the right hand side, or pop over to the next quarter section to see if cows are there, and so on and so forth. This is a great tool. We have in our fleet one as well. We use it for quick reconnaissance. We throw it up in the air. We check the tree heights. We check what's behind the ridge if we need to fly something more complex. And social media, and then you can take it on your vacation and like have great shots on your social media as well. So I would highly recommend mini drones. Now, if you want to find that lost calf or scout that uh, leak, you probably want to do something more exciting, and thermal and zoom cameras, payloads, as they call them, probably would be helpful here. And well, starting from this page, everything suddenly becomes more expensive. These are not very cheap payloads, and there are different configurations that you can get the same performance, but higher you go with a drone, the more things you can do with it. So thermal scanning, leak detection, building heat loss. You can plug in the video output into your computer, and the software will count the how many heads of cows have entered the corral. I actually took that picture as well, and there's about 3,000 head of cows there. That was in Sunset Prairie in Dawson Creek as well. The realm of mapping, it's probably something that should be left to professionals. You can do some mapping with minis, but it requires extra software and stuff. Drone mapping lives in this particular space where satellites are just not enough. They don't have enough resolution, and the surveyors would just take too long to do the same job. And actually, what brought me here today was Selena's husband Shiler was telling me a story how they had a drainage issue in the field, and they hired a person who's been doing it for a while, but he came with a quad and a survey stick, and he drove around their quarter section, taking data points and then extrapolating that into elevation model, and then providing the program to their tractor to ditch it. So while he was out there for a few hours driving it, you can do the same amount of work with the drone in about 45 minutes. So the entire quarter section with the drone would have been done. Some office time, same results, less gas burn, probably less hours in the field. Drone mapping is very, very useful for planning because it saves time and it increases safety. Like instead of driving yourself in a vehicle somewhere to look at stuff, you send a machine that goes there. And if it crashes, if it's one of those minis, $1,400 is nothing compared to broken bones and like a quad accident, for example. And here's a good example of mapping, and that's one of the drones that we have, a Wingtra. They operate at 120 meters, and they take such high resolution imagery that the resulting picture is 1 to 3 centimeters resolution. So not only you can count the emergent plants on your field, but you also can find that yellow hose that you lost a while back. It's amazing technology. The multispectral ones are really cool because this type of sensor can actually show how stressed the plants are. We know that chlorophyll reacts really, really well in the near infrared light spectrum. So these cameras have that and they capture that. And because we can do that, we can predict stress and see if certain portions of the field are in need of help. It's like having a flying spectrometer, essentially, that tells you a little bit more information about your crop, partially replacing scouting. It cannot replace the tissue sampling, unfortunately. There would be very, very specific scientific equipment that would be able to do that, but not on a consumer level just yet. So this type of sensors would be really, really good for crop scouting, turf health, that's for golf courses, irrigation issues, and restoration tracking. So if you have any projects where environment is concerned and something has been rebuilt and restored to its original shape, you can come back quarterly with a multispectral camera to see how well the plants are responding to the treatment and see if you have progress year after year. Also, this type of data is used to design prescription for the spray drones. So you kind of need to use them in combination to achieve better results. LiDAR, this is really cool because LiDAR shoots lasers, and lasers can get through the tree canopy and get all the way to the ground, giving us a better understanding of terrain, of micro elevations all across the area of interest. We can derive contours, elevation models like what you see in the picture. Elevation models help us solve drainage issue. And if you're into modern social media things, you can like even build your farm 3D model with this kind of type of data. Spraying. Spraying drones are amazing. I think they're the future, and that's why people are getting those and starting businesses. they're way cheaper than a John Deere tractor, much cheaper. You can spray right after rain, because that's the best time to do so. And as you know, you cannot drive on the field with big wheels right after it rains because you will destroy some of your crop, create ruts. Um, and essentially, because you don't bring any wheels in your field, there's no crop loss because from trampling. And these machines, the Agros T50, can do about 40 acres per hour. So quarter section in half a day. And in the end, it's up to you whether um, you want to do drive in a tractor or combine all day by yourself, chatting with your buddies on the radio, or stand under a tent shelter, swapping the batteries and hanging out with your friends all together. That's absolutely up to you. So, and to kind of like conclude all that information that we went through there, all those cameras and payloads, how does that integrate on the farm throughout the growth year? So drones essentially don't offer anything new than like John Deere already has this technology implemented in for large scale producers and monocrops where they use satellites. What we offer here is to scale it to the size of farms that we have here. So from 20 acres to 100 acres, drones are more beneficial than satellites because they would provide higher resolution, they would provide more information compared to satellites, and also clouds prevent information from being read by from high up as well. So drones are not susceptible to that. And so what we see here in all the literature and studies and applications, they go in the same direction of inputs reduction and yield improvements in the end. So we can use drones from spring to the very end till we harvest stuff. And the best results we get is when we merge drone data, soil sampling, and tissue sampling, and we map it together and provide one big map that highlights all the nutrient information for your farm. As for the ranch part, I wanted to highlight the needs of a drone. These guys in Australia were using Mavics to actually herd the cows, and that's maybe answering to the earlier question before there. Can we do something about elk with drones? Probably shouldn't fly next to elk with drones. It's not you cannot disturb wildlife with these machines. It's illegal, and my personal experience being at the roundup and flying even a small Mavic, horses and cows, they didn't really like the machine because they were not used to it and behaved erratically. Like horses can like buck somebody off. So flying close to livestock, I would not recommend. Maybe in a couple of years they'll get used to the buzz, but right away I wouldn't offer I wouldn't suggest doing anything like that. But if you're very serious about herding your cattle with a drone, so you would want to have a live feed, some extended flight time, some weatherproofing, because who knows, maybe you're flying on a rainy night, and a thermal sensor, of course. Uh, the camera that I showed a couple of slides back there, the thermal one, it goes on a bigger drone as a replaceable one. This one comes with everything. It comes in the case. And so when you guys come out in the field and want to look for stuff, you launch this thing in the sky and you go look and you go do some flying and find your lost calf. Well, the biggest question right now for everybody, well, those things cost a lot of money. So is it worth it for me as a farmer to do it on my own, buy my own drone, spray my own stuff, or hire a service. So there are 5 points that I think everyone should consider here. Mission frequency. Say if you need a map done once a year, well, maybe call a service there. If you're gonna fly uh, and look for your cows daily, well, probably you need your own drone that would do that, because calling a service would be too expensive. Then consider your equipment costs. How and buying a drone is just the tip of the iceberg. You need GNSS stations for accurate movement of the machine around your field. You need processing software. You need probably a better computer. There is a learning curve to flying every type of drone, though they're quite user friendly. You still need to know how to operate the machine and what to do in an emergency. Because, for example, the spray drone, its takeoff weight is 52 kilograms, over 100 pounds. So if that thing goes out of control, it might be a little bit dangerous. And then, of course, legal compliance. To fly anything that weighs above 250 grams, so essentially anything other than mini, you will need a license for that. The processing software is another hidden cost that many people don't know and don't talk about. You will need storage on your computer for all those pictures that the drones are taking, so you can compare stuff from now and before. But the software subscription is where it gets a little heavy. Peaks for Deep Fields is one of the leading processing tools for multispectral data, and they want $330 a month to use it. And perpetual license will cost you over 5,000 Canadian dollars. So like when you start flying, you also need to consider, okay, do I have that all figured out? What else do I need? There's a big list, and we're here to help you. If you choose to fly yourself, we can come and set it up for you so you have 100% of the capacity that drones offer. Or like alternatively, you can offset the processing to a subcontractor to us. We will happily host and process you that data. Here in Castlegar, we have our own servers, and we would do it much cheaper than our American counterparts. Let's jump back to flying legally. So those red circles are essentially airport control zones, and likely you will need an advanced license to fly there. Big valleys, they're good for farming and also for landing strips. So depending on where you are, you likely have an airport nearby. So you have to be considered of other air traffic when you fly drones. And I offer flight reviews, as I mentioned. We are partnered with Coastal Drone and Selkirk College, so we can provide access to courses if you wish so. Complete bundles where you study for your advanced operation exam, and then flight review is included. But this is another point where you need to consider where you choosing between a service and doing it yourself. Is it an advanced airspace? Is there a lot of traffic? For example, Nelson Airport is really busy, and because any operation there ends up being an advanced operation. Essentially, where we employ a visual observer, we're listening to the air traffic. You would have to get your restricted operator certificate as well if you're going to get an advanced operation certificate, so you are able to communicate with air traffic. There are a few steps which are quite involved in passing that exam as well. And so I here recommend that you take a course, learn a little bit, maybe get the mini, get used to it, play around with it, and then go fly bigger stuff. And here's a slide of our offering. As we mentioned, we resell equipment as well. We have a couple of DJI packages here. Call for quotes. We're happy to provide you with those. We sold premium brands as well. Their price probably twice as much as DJI stuff. We have access to research payloads as well, if you so need to. And of course, our AgriMap 360 service, which is essentially your farm baseline, will come and get an ortho photo so you can do your planning. If you need topography option, we'll do it with LiDAR. We can include multispectral mapping and soil and tissue testing because of Santiago's expertise, which in the end becomes a comprehensive nutrient management plan that is required for many farms around here through the BC government. Yeah, definitely let us know if we can help. And I wanted to also share this important slide because those prices are high, and there is a way how to lower your costs through the Investment Agriculture Foundation. There are a couple of programs that will subsidize what we do in terms of planning, in terms of water infrastructure, irrigation systems, where you can include thermal drones and mapping drones into your project. This fund will help you fund your innovative ideas. And if my memory serves me right, I think one program offers up to 50%. Another way of saving some money here, maybe a cost sharing program. For example, if you find enough neighbors who are farmers and you guys all want a multispectral map of your property, you band together, we come out, we do the map for you, and it's cheaper because you're sharing the service cost. And in Kelowna, they started that precision ag trial where they fly multispectral drones over orchards. And it'd be awesome to see here, maybe in the RDCK, similar programs that help our farmers get more information about crops and become more resilient in the face of climate change and whatnot. It's a really interesting conversation, actually, and maybe we'll leave it to a next webinar session. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking around until the very end. If you scan the QR code, that will be a 15% discount for our services. Scan the code, fill out the form, register. You don't have to buy right away. We will have your information, and when you need some mapping done or anything else, we'll be right there to help you. Thank you very much. And here we are ready for your questions.
Thank you so much, Vadim. That was fantastic. You just covered an enormous amount of ground in a very short time and made it actually seem really easy. Please, just throwing it out to the floor.
Hey, Andrew, Jordy Thibault.
Hi, Jordy. Great to have you.
How are you doing?
Doing great.
Good. I just had I have a curiosity here about these drones and what they're capable of. I know they're people use them for spraying and seeding and things like that, all kinds of things. I'm just wondering if they couldn't be used in East Kootenays here for some of these ranches that are inundated with elk, if they could be used for hazing or even pepper spray. A lot of people might not hear, like like to hear that, but it's getting to be an epidemic, and I'm just trying to. It just popped into my head a while ago here, a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, it might be a question to ask. So there are things called hazing permits for ranchers. They can acquire hazing permits to push elk off their farmland. Whether drones can be used or not, I don't.
I have a little bit of background in conservation, going to Soccer College here. And so we can chat more about what the elk management stuff might look like outside of here, because I think it's interesting, that kind of mix of technology and wildlife, especially if we're able to do it safely, because it might be even safer for the people as well. If you limit the interaction between humans and wildlife, you're able to diminish the risk for both parties, right? Like both for the humans and for the animal itself.
Jessica or Leanne, do you have any thoughts on the legislation around hazing permits or what this could look like?
I have not looked into the legalities of it. I have seen some video footage of a drone hazing some elk. It was quite successful. You'd have to be pretty careful because they can really wreck your fences if you spook them too much. But I mean, all the ranchers know that. And I'm not going to disclose who sent me the video because of the legalities, but I think it's probably worth exploring for crop protection. And of course, it might be a conversation to have with the wildlife biologists. And I don't want to say any more than that.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you. I did put you on the spot.
Yeah.
But sir, the spooking would be, of course, the big concern. A spooked animal is unpredictable and dangerous to themselves and others. So.
Yeah, well, you can stay. I mean, the thing is, you can stay far away from them, but you don't want to. And with the drone, I mean, you can go in and come back and not get them, too, just you can bother them enough to move them without getting them stampeding. So I've seen some footage of that. So, but whether they become habituated to it, right? I mean, after some time, they may not care. So once they're used to it.
Right. And you might run out of interested nieces and nephews to actually fly the drone all the time to keep the elk off your head.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I know there is legal issues, but there's also a big problem with crop losses too. So yeah, it's a contentious issue.
Yeah.
There was Jordy here. There was a idea tossed around quite a few years ago. I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago. I thought Thompson Rivers University was planning or had done a drone experiment where they tried to haze elk out of ranchers' fields, and I thought they were talking about having these automated drones that would take off from a fence post and go out and do a pattern and then come back on a set pattern and things like that. And I'm just wondering if that ever came to fruition or if there was any ever results from that test that anybody knows about.
Yeah, I'd be curious to track that down, Jordy. This is just Jessica calling. Yeah, I'm kind of coming at the conversation from the biologist side of things, and the reason that I want to get a program going to address some of the concerns with elk is that as farmers, that's your livelihood, and it's crazy how much impact it has, and I can understand the frustration that you guys have with elk. And then from my side, some of the ways that you guys can mitigate that can be harmful for elk populations in the future. And so I'd like to kind of get ahead of any of those issues to start identifying what's going to work best for farmers and also for keeping corridors open and kind of minimizing any behavioral impacts that they have. I think my only concern about the drone is that if it's not done in a way that the elk can perceive the threat and that they understand it, it might end up just elevating stress levels that don't necessarily get them out of a field. Because it's it doesn't mimic a predator of any sort they'd be scared of, right? If you're trying to get ducks out of a pond, it's great because it's going to kind of look like an eagle or an osprey hovering from above. Whereas for an elk, they might not perceive it as something to necessarily run from, and then you kind of risk just getting them confused, and it may not be the best tactic to get them in one direction out of the field. Yeah. But I definitely think it's something to further look into, that if it does become a help. So I'd be curious to track down that study to see if that's something I can implement as a part of our project. Thank you for mentioning that, Jordy.
All right. Yeah, it was out of Thompson Rivers University, I think. I can't remember the fellow's name that was talking about doing it.
Very cool.
Well, thank you for that discussion. That's very informative.
I
I
could
wanted to go ahead.
chime in a little bit on animal interactions with drones. Um, some animals don't even care about drones because they don't recognize them as anything they've seen that resembles a predator. So they just don't care. Lots of birds come check out our drones, but once they find out that it flies in a pattern and doesn't behave like a bird, they just leave. They're not interested anymore. I, as I mentioned earlier in the presentations, horses buck when they hear that noise, and the bigger the drone, the louder it is. Um, so I don't know, personally, like we we were taught to stay away from wildlife. We're not allowed to fly in national and provincial parks without the permission to not so we don't disturb the wildlife. And personally, I believe that's the way because drones do produce a lot of noise and they can be scary.
Thank you, Vadim. That's a really good point.
When it comes to these the high-tech grazing collars that are coming out and becoming more popular, I'm just wondering if drones could be used to download new parameters into those collars versus having to put up cell phone or Wi-Fi towers and things like that.
I
think,
actually have a slide about that. I
Mhm.
didn't know if we're gonna make it all the way in there, but one second. Yeah, so this is so timely, and thank you for that question, Jordy. This is one of the ways how Internet of Things is growing and how it can be used. So whenever your cows are out on the pasture somewhere on crown land, you can have like little base station transmitters set up. So once they pass the collar, the information is either saved on that base station and whatnot, and then you just fly a drone to pick up the information. You set up a path, the drone takes off, flies over there, hangs out in the air for half an hour, or however long it needs to download the data, moves on back home, and then you can see the map where your cows are or whatever you really need. Or vice versa, upload the information that way. So it's basically a couple of Wi-Fi access points and callers, essentially. But
Vadim, do I
will be
understand you
different.
correctly that you can kind of get two two drones with one stone? I mean, you can get out there and transfer your data, but also while you're out there, be collecting imagery and maybe something else.
Yeah, for sure. You tie a little box with a transmitter on a drone, and it just goes out there, picks up. It's like radio collars on whales. Same kind of idea.
Mm-hmm. It would just take a little bit of a custom drone, right? So now we're talking a little bit more on custom operations, because it might not be just as easy as strapping something to the drone. When you're talking about flying machines that require very specific aerodynamics for them to move and work properly, but definitely something that could be explored. That there's drones that are meant for custom use like this and custom platform carrying and things like that. So
I think it answers it. I guess my question was that, could I change the parameters within the collars? Like, can I change my fence arrangement out on my crown range by flying a drone over and downloading information versus having it sent from a Wi-Fi tower or Starlink or something like that?
It certainly sounds like that's possible.
Yeah.
Is that's what
Yeah.
I'm understanding,
Yeah.
Yes.
that you can do
yeah,
that.
in short, yeah, but it would just be a whole project kind of thing, right? Just like making sure the technology they're using like matches with each other and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely possible.
I had a question about the AgriMap 360, your baseline program. It sounds like that's very custom to each farm's needs, and then I was also wondering what would that cost maybe? And what is, as an example, I don't know, it would help maybe if any farms here on the call would like to know for the parameters of their farm what it might cost. 'Cause I'm sure it varies a lot depending on area, whether you need LiDAR or not, whether you need multispectral or not. But then the next question, of course, is like for some farms, a baseline is fantastic. You get your mapping and you're kind of good to go. Whereas for another farm, maybe if you're a cherry orchard or you're working on a cropping system, you do need that regular return visits. So do you have both of those services kind of baked in?
I'll let Vadim talk about the price part, but we're working on a couple of different approaches. Number one is using the nutrient management plans and the best management practices plans that there are to try and leverage being out there at the same time. So that's why Vadim had brought up the idea of the Investment Agriculture Fund so that they could kind of support this use. It's definitely a very custom platform, which what we're doing, it's very modular. So regardless of what the data that comes in, we'll be outputting a map and in a way that provides you information about your field. So to put it into an example, when you're doing a nutrient management plan, I'm not sure if many have done them for their farms yet. You're out there collecting soil samples and then sending them off to a lab in order for you to be able to understand the composition of nutrients in your soil. And sorry if I'm boring some of the ranchers out here, but we'll talk plants for a little bit. When we're doing that, we're just ultimately getting to know how much do our crops need in terms of nutrients. And so is there a gap that we need to fill with extra nutrients being there, or are we producing too much and we can reduce, therefore reducing our costs and our impact on the environment and things like that. And so we're grabbing that at the same time, ideally also grabbing tissue samples so that for some crops, we'll be able to know specific protein content and things like that give us a better idea of where the crop is actually at. It's a tiny little bit invasive, but nothing that would hugely impact your crops or anything like that. And then when we're grabbing the multispectral imagery, for example, or LiDAR, because we're already out there, we grab and package it all together to make the numbers make sense in a map that you can visually see the impact that various different treatments, whether it be fertilizer, whether it be nutrient applications, or water issues, water stress in plants, so you can go fix them, right? Just kind of like being a confluence of information, a platform of confluence, bringing it all so that if you need an export in a certain way for John Deere, we're working on something like that. So we're just really trying to bring a very kind of detached part where things might be all over the place in hard drives and printed maps and all those different things. But yeah, that's the premise.
Yeah, thanks, Santi. And yeah, the pricing exists. And so if you have done a nutrient management plan, you aware of the cost. They're about $3,000 a pop. So we add on our drone data collection on that, and essentially we work with your farm to come to a final price because your needs might be different. Some people will need LiDAR and means bringing one drone. Some people will just need an orthophoto, that means bringing another drones. But your range is in $3,000 to $4,000 kind of for AgriMap 360.
So we are in near Briscoe, along the wetland. So it's on the side of the river. It's mostly a field. There's a little bit of wetland. There's a little bit of woodland, but it's like big a field that the highway cross. We don't have irrigation yet. Definitely something that we're going to be looking into because, well, with climate change, vegetation has been quite stressed in the last few years. And I do have myself a basic drone license. I've been flying for mapping or property with a Mavic Air. And
yeah,
Jen,
I've got a background in remote sensing work and a little bit of GIS, but for watershed management. So some amount of botanical mapping, watershed mapping, water resources management. So I've done a fair amount of use of the data and use of like LiDAR data and various things. So some of the things like invasive species mapping and things like that, wetland delineation, I've done using.
We do
a fair amount of that.
have NapWeed on our property. That's one of the things we
Yeah.
also have to manage.
And-
Mostly, we think from when they did build up the driveway, because it's around. At least for now, we have only seen it around there. But yeah.
And we have one drone now, one drone in the making, and a server, and a
we do
and a LoRa network. So
yeah.
Okay.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I haven't made the LoRa network connected to the public for now, but
Yeah.
looking at RTK for things like for people that know.
I messed around with LoRa networks a whole bunch. I designed my own water quality sensor inside of a Tupperware with a little bit of PVC for the sensors to come out, and the Tupperware made it float. Right, it was pretty good, but yeah, that's awesome. Also did my thesis on land use and aquifer recharge, so I know a little bit about water use that way.
Yeah, Santiago, I might email you, because one of the things that we were looking for and couldn't really find is a reasonably affordable well sensor for like water level and well quality. They're really expensive.
Yeah, definitely. We can we can chat, and I can actually I can connect. And this is actually public information for anybody that has a well. I think this is well said for everybody. My job before this was with Living Lakes Canada. So they're a water stewardship organization that works within the Columbia Basin and beyond. And they have a groundwater monitoring program. So there might be someone, I don't know if you reached out to them yet, Carol Lutmer, I believe her last name is, that she was managing the program when I was there. That would be somewhere that you may be able to get some support in getting a hobo sensor installed on there, which would be top quality Bluetooth, the whole 9 yards.
Peter, you said at your woodlot there's an aerodrome out there. And then the question is about whether a regular certification would allow you to fly out there. You know, actually, Santiago, would you be able to pull up easily enough the map of restricted areas, and we could fly around if anybody wants to know what's restricted in their neighborhood? We could take a quick look.
I can do that. I got
Or
this
Vadim,
stuff.
yeah, you got it?
See who gets there first. Oh, he beat me.
He's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Pretty fast. All right, so there's a lot of restricted areas. You know, you gave us some. There are yellow areas, like I saw Creston has yellow. There's some yellow, red. Very briefly, what that's aerodrome. Like, tell us a little bit about what we're seeing.
Okay, so the airspace is divided in multiple sections, so we can all share it responsibly, right? And so there are important sites like helicopter pads and aerodromes, which are different from airports. Aerodromes can be any landing strip, but airports are definitely controlled. And controlled airspace means we definitely will use a permission. We definitely will be communicating with traffic and filing our flight plans on NAVCAN. The yellow space means it's an aerodrome, and it means that there is traffic, but it's an uncontrolled space. So technically, you only need a basic license to fly there. But as I brought it up a little bit earlier, in Nelson, although it says everything is uncontrolled airspace, there's so much traffic you cannot safely operate just on basic license, simply to the fact that you need to be aware of planes coming from the mountainside down the lake. There's a helicopter pad that's quite active, and during the fire season, it's very busy. So if you go to
Can you
this,
go up a little bit north of Nelson?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what is up around Peter's place in near Caslow there, right, Peter? Is it, that's
do
right there.
Caslow.
so here's Caslow. So it's an aerodrome. You will be able to fly there with a basic license. But if you have enough traffic there to cause discomfort. And when you're like taking off and you're in this pattern and there are planes around, you probably should get a little bit more training just to be safe and share their airspace responsibly.
And
And
something
while we're
to,
here, could we shoot over to Cranbrook? Because well, I know that's where Jordy is.
yeah, Cranbrook's a big one. So Cranbrook
Yeah.
with the regional airport there, it would be huge. And Creston even we flew in Ericsson for a wild side project with connectivity, and that was a pretty busy airspace anyways, and this was in the middle of the summer. So it is something to keep in mind. And just a quick comment on Peter's comment is that you don't need a special flight operation certificate necessarily. That comes into play with very specific conditions, such as an advertised event, for example, needs one of those because you're going to be flying close to people and all those different things. If you're going to fly in controlled airspace, somewhere like in Casigar, you need that. We have to do it before with Vadim for our day job sometimes, and so yeah, there's quite a bit of complications, but SFOCs come into play just in very specific conditions, and I don't really see them coming into play with a farm much at all. Not around here.
Maybe if you're a rancher and your cattle is really far away and you're planning to fly
Perhaps.
beyond visual line of sight, you would
Yeah.
have to get a special flight operating certificate.
If you were to
Okay.
fly without visual line of sight anywhere.
Yeah, I was also referring not just to the small drones, but also heavier drones like spray drones that are over 25 kilograms. So you anyways need a SFOC.
Right. So lots of legalities, especially depending where you are and what you're doing. That line of sight is interesting. It can be tough in our valleys and hills to keep line of sight on a drone.
That being said, a big drone, something that we fly like a Wingtra, it's big and orange, and you can see it just over 1,600 meters from your launch point. But mini, you would lose out of sight really quickly. It's tiny. It fits on the palm of your hand.
As far as I have heard, there's also changes coming up with the line of sight.
Mm-hmm.
So they're working on that you can fly further, but that again brings risks with it. So you cannot fly your drone. You need to come home somehow, and yeah, you should be very confident flying by then.
Speaking from experience, I've crashed, and it's not a sound I ever want to hear again. That's for sure. So yes, that's a big one, and yeah, that does say something about confidence when you're flying these machines, especially if you've invested 10, 15, $20,000 into getting something going, right? Like it becomes a tool that you're using to make your ultimately business better, right? Like,
Peter, you introduced yourself before some people got on, Peter Wall, as well as Kelly. Peter is just starting a business though, so I really wanted you to have just a moment to tell us what your plans are.
Hi, hello, I'm Peter Wall.
Hi there, Peter.
I'm here from Creston, Manitoba, Creston, BC, sorry. I just moved here. I also just did my advanced drone license up here in Creston. And I'm just about to start offering custom spray services. And my background is mechanical engineering, and we have designed agricultural equipment along with, in general, drone trailers and so on. Maybe some of you guys know the company Fiber Manufacturers in Manitoba. And there also, we were farming 7,500 acres of grain. So now in November, me and my family, we moved here to the Kootenays, to Creston. And me and my son, we started the company Elevate Drone Service in order to have custom application drone service for orchards. I also do retail drones on DJI. And yeah, I'm working on some more stuff, but this is the main focus right now, to offer custom application and drying, greenhouse shading, spraying, fertilizing, seeding, spreading, and more.
I think it's timely that I opt in right now due to Peter's introduction. Kelly Vandenberg, and I'm an elected official with RDCK, reside just outside of Creston, so welcome, Peter. And originally came from southern Manitoba. Specifically, my question's around invasive weeds mapping. Is the software available that you can identify some of the invasive weeds, which from with my background, talking with the farming community, I actually sit as a chair on a work task with CKIS, and invasive weeds is a problem and a concern with our farming community and generally speaking. So would that be a spectral type of apparatus? And do you have to teach it in order to zero in on certain invasive species?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that question, Kelly. Really interesting stuff. Also, dealt with it a lot with Selkirk College. I remember one of our assignments was identifying yellow flag iris in a wetland. And so it is possible, and it's very much present, but there is the training need for it, as well as timing. So I'm thinking of something that's very present here would be knapweed. The best way to identify knapweed from the air would be when it's bright and purple, because that's going to show up in the multispectral very, very nicely. Is there a model that would identify the spectral signature of knapweed out there? I doubt it, because it is a very localized species. However, are there some spaces here in the Kootenays that would be willing to support projects like this? And for example, some MyTax projects that join organizations like Above Sensing and educational organizations like College of the Rockies or Selkirk College are very much into doing MyTax projects that could support the creation of a model like that. But yeah, a little bit of money and a little bit of time would definitely provide the platform to begin some invasive species management at large. I would say mostly beginning, where I would start would be roads. They're relatively easy to fly around. Something like our wing tri is really very good at doing corridor mapping. So long stretches of highway can be looked at relatively quickly.
I'm very tempted to call you out, Rick, and find out what is on your mind for drones on your place.
Two things, Andrew. I'm thinking mainly finding cows is always high on the priority list. The other thing I'm really interested in looking at is frost seeding in the spring with a drone for pasture rejuvenation. Hayfield seeding. You know, I'd love to at least give it a try and compare it to a no-till seeder. See what it's like. See what the costs are like.
Vadim or Santiago, do you have any experience with seeding from the air?
No, not yet. But we're quick learners.
What about you, Peter? Have you been doing some seeding?
We did seeding on the farm in Manitoba. We did corn seeding. We did seed corn, and we had excellent results with that. We did cover crop seeding, also excellent results with the DJI T50. And yeah, very good spread, very good growth, really excellent results.
Germination was adequate? Well, I'm just wondering, because if you're putting corn seed on, what did you do to incorporate it into the soil after you spread seed? And how much was that hopper able to hold?
So we did spread it from the air, and then just with the tractors later on, just rolled it over. So it was not really put into the topsoil. It was just rolled.
Okay.
Was the land tilled before, or tilled or harrowed before you spread the seed? Like, was it a loosened soil that you then rolled, or was it kind of like with a no-till drill where you would maybe just do it straight into?
Was harrowed.
It was
harrowed before, yeah.
And how much did the hopper hold? Like how many flights did you have to run to cover, I don't know, say 10 acres of corn?
So the hopper of a T50 can hold 50 kilograms. And with that, you can cover about 40 acres an hour.
I think Rick just asked if you had to change batteries regularly.
Yeah, so on a T50, it is actually a very good setup that as soon as your tank is empty, either a liquid or the dry tank, also that is balanced with your battery life. You should not go lower than about 30% on your batteries. And your drone empties the tank in about 7 to 8 minutes. So when your drone returns, you swap the battery, fill up the tank, and off you go again.
Interesting.
And that is, yeah, the same with seeding, spraying, spreading.
And the T50 is a fairly large drone. If you've got you say a 20 liter or 20 kilo tank?
50, I believe you said,
50,
right?
No,
50 kilo tank.
Yes, it is about 9 by 9 feet.
Yeah, okay. Is there anybody close to our area of the world that is running one of these yet?
I have one, yes.
And you're in Caslow.
I am in Creston.
Creston. Oh, okay.
Two different Peters.
Two different Peters. Okay.
Well, thanks very much, Peter Wall. That's fantastic information. I know that there's a lot of interest in Creston right now about spraying, and it's going to probably take off, so to speak, with the cherry growers first.
Pun intended, Andrew?
I suppose so. Why not? It's after 7. But Dwayne, I was wondering what brought you here tonight and what you were thinking of.
Hi, Andrew. No problem picking on me. I've got a hay farm out here, and I'm right on the west end of the Kootenay boundary here, near Osuyas, right at the top of Bannicus Mountain. My son is actually what got me into looking into this stuff. He's interested in maybe starting his own business doing this, like some of these other fellas are going already. But yes, it is a little cost prohibitive, but if there is a need and a use for it, I do like the idea of the crop spraying. So that's one key point that I'm interested in, learning more on that. I deal with foliar fertilizers and soil enhancers as well. So I'm already putting that out on the field, but to be able to apply that without driving over the field would be great. It's like it says, no crop damage, and you can pinpoint where it needs it as well. So yeah, just interested in seeing, obviously there's somebody in Creston and Castlegar, and sounds like those might be the closest to me in our area.
Yeah, please, Dwayne, give us a call. We'll guide you through the process. There's, like I mentioned, there are quite a few moving parts to it, but we're happy to help and happy to get you flying.
Yeah, and also if your son is curious and wants to hear about what it's like starting a drone business, we'd be more than happy to chat about that, as we started this right after graduation. So we know that it comes with a few hurdles that might not necessarily be accounted for in the everyday, kind of thing.
I wanted to also just ask Ron if you had Ron Marceau, if you've got anything to add or anything you wanted to ask or.
No, not really. No, I was just I farm up north in the Peace region, northern Alberta, and I knew of the spraying applications that are becoming more prevalent up here with the drones on some of the smaller farms. So yeah, it was just interesting to see some of the different applications that you guys are using down south, and it'll definitely become a more integral part of the farms in the future. So always good to keep up on information.
So Ron, you do see some of these applications up in the piece now?
Yeah, with spraying, it's kind of in the past 2 years, there's been a couple field tests and stuff like that, and there's been a couple people have tried it out. Up north, a lot of the farms, the bigger farms, the ground sprayers and planes are still prevalent and the more popular option just for acreage coverage, right? Timing, sometimes your spraying window is pretty small, and but yeah, it'll like I said, there's a couple outfits. I'm not sure their names, but there's a couple guys doing that have some setups here, and they're you see them out every once in a while. So yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
for sure.
I saw you nodding vigorously to foliar fertilizers. Do you have some thoughts on that?
I think they're great. But again, I think that they're even better when they're precise, right? So my biggest thing coming a little bit more from the environmental side is the nutrient runoff and making sure that things are kind of controlled and within the farm, but also maximized. Because I mean, you're spending precious money on nutrients, unless for some reason you're making your own out of your livestock. But anyways, that's not really sprayable from the drone yet. I don't think you can spray manure from the drones just quite yet. But I like their absorption rates. I like how effective they can be. And again, it's just kind of finding a middle between the mapping and the spraying to make sure that we know exactly what we're spraying, where we're spraying it, and making sure it's being effective.
Peter
Yeah,
Wall?
one thing that gives drone pilots, especially for orchards and fields, currently some headache is unfortunately that Health Canada is blocking a lot of chemicals that fall under the Pesticide Act. Like in the US, everything that is sprayed by plane or helicopter, they just have grandfathered into the drone business. And they said, okay, what we spray by air, by drone and helicopter, we just can't do with or helicopter and plane, we can do with the drones as well. Here in Canada, unfortunately, there is just a very, very few chemicals allowed for spraying by drone so far. They are working on it. They have promised labeling more by end of last year. Has not much happened so far. So they'll keep working on, and as government is, sometimes it takes longer. But all of us, we hope that they will release more labels on pesticides or on everything that falls under the Pesticide Act that we can spray by drones, especially because it's quieter, faster, safer, and you stay much further away from what is being sprayed than doing it by hand, and cheaper than a helicopter. But yeah, that is also to consider currently.
Thank you, Peter. That's very interesting. Well, just have to see how those regulations evolve in the coming years.
Yeah, I think most of the spraying up north that I've seen is fungicides. And yeah, it might be because of restrictions with pesticides.
The regulation change, if I'm not mistaken, is coming in this month. At the end of the month, it would also include beyond visual line of sight changes, and I think the spray drones and what Peter was referring to. The biggest hurdle right now is that the fertilizer bottle doesn't have a label that says approved for drones. That's the biggest thing. And otherwise, the containers, the vessels for the chemical, they're good for, so are the sprayers, they're good for everything. And comparatively, like Canada and China, where these T50s are made, their market is exploding with those right now. So similar here, they're trying to get the legislation moving faster, but things move a little bit slower here. So soon we'll see changes. Soon all farms will be buzzing.
Vadim, or Peter, or whoever, I guess I have a question about that comparison between spraying with just ground sprayers and spraying with a drone. Let's say it's just for fertilizing a field. What's the economics there? Is there a scale breaking point where if you're smaller it's a drone and you're larger it's a tractor, or how does that play out now?
And you're also forgetting to play in airplanes and helicopters, which will also be doing some of this work. And so if it becomes too large of a scale, that's where I would, and I don't really have much experience, I'm just kind of like assuming from my own, is that there would be a tipping point in which your capital investment is going to be different. And I would assume that would be based on not only land-based, but also the application that you're doing, right? So there's quite a few different price levels for different treatments. Let's say if you're applying for the mold is blanking out of my brain right now for cherries. That takes place pretty often. Those are
Powdery mildew.
Thank you. White powdery mildew. Those are some pretty pricey treatments per tree compared to like spraying some type of liquid fertilizer. So I think it's a good question, but I feel like it's so broad to like per farm application that it has a lot of kind of variables there for sure.
We know that everybody sprays, small farm, big farm. It really depends on what kind of liquid you're gonna put in there, and I think we gotta look at what drones are capable of doing and go from there. 40 acres per hour, that's in perfect conditions. So let's say we'll go to 30 acres and we fly all day long, which is 7-8 hours, maybe 9. Farmers get up early, right? But you probably want to start flying in the daylight. So maybe like a quarter section to quarter sections per day you will be able to cover. And that's what quarter section is 160 acres, so 320 acres per day. Does that sound right, Peter?
No, we did up to, okay, with 2 drones. In Manitoba on the flat, we sprayed up to 1,000 acres a day. So with 1 drone, you can do 450 to 500 acres a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking 1 drone, depending on your terrain, depending on like how many batteries you have, depending what kind of like charging system you have, because you will need more batteries than just 1 set, and you would have to constantly charge them and rotate them. Batteries charge about an hour per set. So like I'm comparing to our drones, what we fly, we generally, if we fly large areas with our wing trail, which is very efficient at covering large scale projects, we can do 8 sorties a day for an hour each, and we can go 900 hectares plus. Hectares, not acres. So it's all depending on the scale and depending on how fast you're able to do it and how much gear you have. So Peter probably have flown them. He will have much better time, much better coverage than you guys just starting up with your own drone. But then again, if you're tired of driving in a tractor by yourself and you want to hang out with friends, I'd get the drone, stand under a shelter, have a cold drink there. Drone comes back, recharge, go. Done.
Sure, it's a lifestyle choice. Well, I've got, I've got, unless somebody else wants to jump in, I got one little curveball I kind of wanted to throw. I know that we didn't talk much about the applications in orchards, but using LiDAR, you could count every single cherry or apple and know your yield ahead of time. Not going there though. There is a sprayer that I saw a couple of years ago that is on a tractor, and as it goes down between the rows of trees, it uses LiDAR to sense where the leaves are, and it adjusts how much spray comes out of every nozzle. And they're able to dramatically reduce the amount of spray that the farm uses through the combination of LiDAR and spray. And I'm wondering if this sounds like a perfect marriage of technology for drones as well.
So what we did, as Vadim and Santiago mentioned earlier, we scanned our field with a multispectral. And on the multispectral pictures, you can see how efficient fertilizer and other chemicals that you apply to your fields, you can see how efficient they work. So if you load up this map, for example, to the T50, the T50 can adjust how much it sprays. Let's say you have there a field that is very good nutritioned, so it sprays less, keeps flying, and can adjust flight speed, and also spray volume to however much your field needs. Saying that, you can also adjust the droplet size. When you fly over your orchards, the downwind of your propellers create almost like a turbulence under the wings. So you spray on top of your leaves and from under the leaves as well. We also did some calculation. A helicopter can dry, for example, 200 acres. We have here a farm of cherries, 200 acres, can dry in about 2 hours. So a helicopter has its price, fuel, and how much maintenance cost is to fly a helicopter. We can do the same, like 200 acres in 2 hours with 4 drones. Okay, 4 drones, you can calculate about $130,000. And then we just need to break it down how long it takes to be more efficient than a helicopter. On the T50, you need a charger or a generator of 10,000 watts that would charge your batteries in about 8 minutes. And that is about the flight time of a drone. You usually get 3 batteries. So you always have 1 full battery that you swap out and keep going in a pattern. So the drone flies full autonomous. And yeah, the generator runs, it charges your battery. If you spray, you refill, you charge your battery, swap it, and keep going. So your drone is always in the air.
Going back to your question though, Andrew, I think it would be really cool to explore the difference on tree density and canopy density using LiDAR beforehand and adjusting something like the spray size for it. That way you're combining them both. That'll be neat. I did a MyTax project where Vadim and I looked at the multispectral image use in cherries and cannabis fields. So we worked with local farmers in Creston and in Grand Forks to explore whether or not we could do some counting. And that was very difficult just because of how cherries grow. Cherries are not necessarily a flashy crop that you can pick them out easily. They're hiding. And so on that side, not necessarily, but I would be very interested to chat a little bit more about changing spraying based on canopy density. That's pretty neat.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for the input on all of those. And Peter, thank you for being here for your additional input. That's a great bonus tonight. Vadim and Santiago, you've got a really interesting business going there. I hope that we are going to see it used, because I'm feeling like the future is bright. I feel like there's all kinds of ways drones can be used on the farm. Just a question of farm by farm, when's it going to make sense for each farmer to find a use, and how will that be? And that's going to be for farmers to decide, and we'll see where that goes. Unless there's anything else anybody would like to add, I just want to thank everybody for joining tonight. It's been very interesting. And don't forget to, if you want to get your certification, basic cert, if you haven't yet, maybe consider signing up for the workshop up in the East Kootenay coming up. Or please let us know what you would like Santiago and Vadim to cover in person, maybe at your farm. So thank you very much, and good night to everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.